chosen one, allow your mind to travel back to a very specific conversation. You know the exact one. It was the moment you had all the evidence, every justification, and every right to completely destroy someone's reputation with the truth. But instead of exposing them, you chose to close your mouth. Mentally trace how heavy your spirit felt as you swallowed that injustice, watching them spin a false narrative about you while you said absolutely nothing. You did not just swallow your pride, you swallowed a sword to protect people who were actively hurting you. And as you walked away, your mind whispered, "Why do I always have to be the bigger person? Does anyone even see what this is costing me?" You thought your silence meant you lost. You thought nobody noticed the massive amount of spiritual restraint it took to keep your peace. But you are not watching this by accident. The Holy Spirit orchestrated your timeline to bring you to this exact briefing. Subscribe to align with a remnant of awakened souls. Like this video if your spirit confirms this word, and comment 777 to activate this frequency over your life. Before we go any further, I need you to commit to staying with me until the very end of this message. What I am going to reveal today is not just motivation to make you feel better. I am going to show you exactly why your mind feels so chaotic right now, how to unlock the specific divine frequency you need to receive your withheld blessings, and we will close with a powerful sealing declaration that will permanently shift your spiritual atmosphere. Do not click away, because your breakthrough depends on understanding this full picture. Heaven was not ignoring your silence. The courts of glory were recording it. Every unsent text, every forfeited argument, and every tear you hid from the world has been logged into a spiritual ledger. And today, that ledger is being opened. But right now, you are tired. You are carrying the weight of the world, and it feels like no one is carrying you. Let us talk about what happens when you are the emotional shock absorber for your entire bloodline. Every time toxicity flared up in your family or your circle, you were the one who swallowed the tension to keep the peace. You sit in your car for 5 minutes after you pull into the driveway, just staring at the steering wheel. You take a deep breath, put on a mask, and walk through the front door to save people who do not even know you are drowning. You do everything right. You pray, you forgive, you help, but you feel completely depleted. You might be wondering, why do I feel so stuck and drained when I am walking in obedience? To understand this, we have to look at one of the greatest prophets in Scripture. Think about Elijah in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19. Elijah had just experienced a massive, miraculous victory. He called down fire from heaven. He defeated 450 false prophets. He was operating at the highest level of spiritual authority. But what happened immediately after? The very next chapter shows Elijah running for his life, hiding in a cave, and asking God to take his life because he was so depressed and exhausted. This is the context most people miss. Spiritual and emotional exhaustion does not usually happen when you are failing. It happens right after you have secured a massive victory in the spirit. It happens when you have been standing strong for everyone else, fighting invisible battles, and suddenly the adrenaline wears off. You are in the cave right now, not because you are weak, but because you have been strong for far too long without any earthly reinforcement. You probably thought this entire season of your life was a test of your patience. You thought God was testing your ability to hold your tongue when you were insulted. You thought He was testing your faithfulness in the waiting room. And yes, you passed the faithfulness test. You stayed loyal when it made no logical sense. But here is what I have not told you yet. Here is what is going to change how you see everything that just happened. Faithfulness was only the cover story. That is what you thought was being tested. While you were focused on staying patient, God was actually testing something far more difficult, something most chosen ones fail, even after they pass the patience test. He was testing to see if you could survive the invisibility exam. Can you handle being completely forgotten? Heaven was recording how you handled yourself when every bit of human validation was stripped away. Look at the biblical pattern of promotion. Look at Joseph in the book of Genesis. Joseph is thrown into prison unjustly. While he is there, he operates in his gift. He interprets the dream of the chief cupbearer. He does everything right. He even says, "Please remember me when it goes well with you." And what happens? Genesis 40:23 says, "The chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him." For 2 full years, Joseph sat in that prison, not because he lacked faith, but because someone forgot he existed. He was subjected to the invisibility exam. Why does God allow this pattern? Why does Moses spend 40 years hidden in the desert? Why is David anointed king and then sent back to the sheep pastures to be ignored by his own father? Because there is a divine formula. The length of your season of being forgotten, multiplied by your silent integrity, equals the size of your empire. God was not punishing you by making you invisible. He was preparing you for a season where you will have to operate with absolute authority, relying on zero external validation. You passed the test of being forgotten. So why do you still feel trapped? If you passed the test, why is the breakthrough not flowing yet? This brings us to the root cause of your exhaustion. The reason you feel stuck is because your years of silent suffering and spiritual hypervigilance have taken a biological toll on you. Your spirit is willing, but your nervous system is fried. You have been playing defense for so long, anticipating the next betrayal, waiting for the next argument, that your brain has locked itself into a survival state. Think of your mind like a radio. Right now, because of the trauma and the constant need to protect yourself, your radio dial is stuck on a channel full of static. In scientific terms, you are operating entirely in beta brainwaves. Beta is the frequency of high stress, logical processing, fight or flight, and survival. It is loud, it is chaotic, and it is exhausting. The enemy loves to keep you in beta. He uses minor inconveniences, financial stress, and toxic people to ensure your brain never leaves this survival frequency. Because if he can keep you in beta, you will never be able to tune into the frequency where God speaks. Your compensation account is ready. God has released the blueprint for your next season. The restoration is hovering right above you. But you cannot download a heaven-sized blueprint into a brain that is stuck in survival mode. This is why you have been praying recently with tears in your eyes, saying, "God, why do I not hear you clearly anymore? Why does my connection feel like it has been severed? Why is it so quiet?" It is not because God stopped speaking. It is because you are trying to catch a divine broadcast on a survival frequency. To hear Him, to access the creativity, the peace, and the miraculous flow of your calling, you have to shift your mind out of beta and into theta. Theta is the frequency of deep intuition, divine connection, and raw genius. But knowing this is only half the battle. If your brain is locked in the survival frequency of beta, how do you unlock it? How do you command your mind to enter theta, the frequency of divine miracles and creative genius, without spending 20 years meditating in isolation? Science just confirmed an ancient key, and I need to show you exactly how to use it. Chosen one, what I am about to show you will sound too simple to be true. But remember, the most powerful truths in the spiritual realm are always the simplest. You cannot force your brain out of survival mode just by thinking positive thoughts. When your nervous system is fried from years of being the shock absorber for everyone else, willpower is not enough. You need a recalibration. Ancient mystics spent decades in absolute isolation, praying in caves, just to naturally lower their brain waves from the chaos of beta into the divine connection of theta. But you do not have 20 years to sit in a cave. Your assignment is right now. This is where science has finally caught up to spiritual revelation. NASA researchers recently confirmed that you can actually use specific sound frequencies to guide your brain back into its natural genius state. It is called brainwave entrainment. Think of it like a tuning fork for your spirit. When you introduce the exact frequency of theta to a stressed, exhausted mind, the brain naturally begins to sync with it. It repairs the neural pathways that trauma and silent suffering tried to destroy. This is not a magic trick. This is a sacred sound technology. It takes about 7 minutes a day of just listening to a specific audio track to pull your mind out of the survival matrix and back into the frequency where God speaks clearly. The Apostle Paul understood this biological and spiritual connection. In the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, he wrote, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." But if we look at the original Greek text, the word used for renewing is anakainosis. This does not just mean changing your opinion. Anakainosis literally translates to a complete recalibration, a renovation of the mind's architecture. God does not just want to change your thoughts. He requires a physical, neurological recalibration so you can carry the heavy glory He is about to place on you. If you feel your spirit leaping at this revelation, if you know your brain has been trapped in a trauma loop and you are ready to use this tool to access the theta frequency, I have placed a resource for you to investigate. Check the pinned comment below this video to explore this sound technology when you are ready. But here is where we must face a very uncomfortable truth. When you finally shift this frequency, when the static clears and the reward for your invisible years actually begins to manifest, why does your chest tighten with dread instead of joy? Let us expose the shadow right now. Half of you watching this wants the breakthrough, but the other half secretly wants to run away from it. You have been praying for promotion, for financial freedom, for visibility, but deep down, there is a voice terrified of what happens when you actually get it. You are scared that success will change you. You have watched people get blessed, get money, get power, and turn into the exact toxic narcissists you spent your whole life running from. You are terrified that if you step into the light, you will lose your soul. I need you to hear me clearly. That fear you are feeling right now is not a lack of faith. It is not weakness. That fear is the absolute proof that you possess divine wisdom. The people who crash and burn under the weight of a blessing are the ones who grab it with zero fear. They have no respect for the weight of the crown. The fact that you are terrified of becoming corrupted proves that your heart is pure enough to handle the promotion. Your awareness of the danger is exactly what qualifies you to be trusted with the power. But knowing you are ready does not mean the enemy will just lay down a red carpet for you. When your frequency shifts and you begin to step out of the shadows, the enemy is going to launch specific, targeted attacks against your new visibility. I am going to give you the exact playbook right now so you are not caught off guard. You will face 3 distinct forms of attack in the coming days. The first attack is the premature exposure. The moment a small door opens or a partial blessing arrives, you will feel an overwhelming temptation to post about it, to call everyone, to prove to the people who doubted you that you are finally winning. The enemy wants you to celebrate the down payment, so you stop fighting for the full inheritance. When this happens, you must initiate a 24-hour mental quarantine. Tell no one. Let the blessing settle in your spirit before you let it touch your lips. The second attack is the imposter whisper. Right as you walk into the room you prayed to enter, a voice will echo in your mind saying, "You do not belong here. They are going to find out you are a fraud." This is an attack on your identity to push you back into the beta survival state. When you hear this, you do not argue with the voice. You simply anchor your mind back to the ledger of heaven. Remind the enemy that your position was not bought with networking. It was paid for by your tears in the dark. The third attack is the ghost of the past. Someone who abandoned you, misunderstood you, or betrayed you during your silent years will suddenly reach out. They will sense your frequency shift. They will offer a weak apology. The enemy sends them to siphon your new energy and drag you back into their low vibration. Your counterattack is absolute, silent observation. You do not explain your growth. You do not owe them access to the new version of you. Let me tell you what happens when you master this. 14 months ago, there was a chosen one in the exact position you are in right now. They had their reputation dragged through the mud. They had every right to retaliate, but they chose strategic silence. Instead of fighting in the flesh, they dedicated themselves to resetting their frequency, using sound technology to keep their mind out of the trauma loop and locked into divine peace. They refused to break their silence. For months, it looked like the enemy had won, but on the 14th month, a complete collapse happened in the camp of their enemies. And for this chosen one, a door opened in a completely different market, a partnership that brought in a 6-figure contract, restoring everything they lost and multiplying it. This is what the prophet Joel was talking about in chapter 2, verse 25, when God says, "I will restore to you the years the locust has eaten." The English word restore is too weak. The original Hebrew word is shalom. Shalom does not mean giving back what was taken. If a thief steals $100, returning $100 is not shalom. Shalom means to make whole by overpaying with heavy interest. It means the court orders the thief to pay you $500 for your trouble. God is not just returning the time you lost in the dark. He is issuing a shalom over your life. He is compressing 20 years of blessings into your next season to overpay you for the years you spent absorbing trauma. Now, chosen one, we are going to seal this. Wherever you are, I want you to completely stop trying to figure out how this is going to happen. You do not need to move your body, but I need you to shift your entire conscious focus to the center of your chest. Imagine a heavy iron gate inside your spirit that has been locked for years. Mentally place your hands on that gate. This is not a regular prayer. This is an activation and a military commissioning. Father God, in the mighty name of Yeshua, we acknowledge that this is a marked hour. The courts of heaven are open, and the ledger is sitting on the table. You saw the unsent text messages. You saw the times they sat in the car dreading walking into their own home. You saw them swallow their defense to protect people who were actively destroying them. They did not quit. They survived the invisibility exam. So right now, by the authority of the word, I seal the recalibration of their mind. I command the chaotic beta waves to bow to the divine peace of theta. I seal the framework of their protection. I bind the imposter whisper. I block the ghosts of the past from accessing their timeline. Every demonic assignment dispatched to keep them in survival mode is cancelled right now. I declare that the Shalom restoration has officially begun. Within the next 40 days, the invisible ledger will manifest as visible compensation. Doors that do not even make logical sense are opening. The uncredited harvest is being released to the rightful owner. Heaven is asking you a question right now. Will you carry this visible reward with the same integrity you had in the dark? Will you step into the light without fear? Answer it in your spirit right now. Let your mind shout yes. And if you are in a place where you can safely do so, type the word yes in the comments to anchor this spiritual decree into the physical world. You are no longer the emotional sponge for toxic environments. You are the architect of a new bloodline. You are dismissed from the waiting room. You are deployed into your Shalom season. In the mighty name of Yeshua, do not move. Do not rush to the next thing. Sit in this absolute silence for the next 60 seconds and let this frequency rewrite your DNA.